The air inside the royal chamber was cold. Crystals of frost clung to the surface of the cryopod where the alien queen lay, her silver skin losing its glow. Her breath was slow and weak. Every few minutes her chest rose and fell, but barely. Around her stood a group of advisors, dressed in dark robes, their eyes full of fear. Whispers filled the room. "She has 3 days left," one said. "No healer can stop the decay," another replied. "It's the curse. The bloodline is ending." One old advisor stepped forward. "There is one way." All heads turned. He took a deep breath and said, "The ancient bond. The old scrolls speak of it. If she mates with a human, the curse will stop. Her body will heal." The others looked horrified. A human? They're banned. The queen herself led the war against them. "But we lost that war," the old man whispered. "And now, we need one." Silence fell. Then a younger advisor spoke. "Even if we find a human who would agree to such a thing, to mate with a dying alien queen?"
House.
No one answered, but deep in a hidden part of the galaxy, on a dusty moon where broken machines were dumped, a human was working alone. Kael. Once a soldier in the Earth Wars, now fixed drones. For spare credits. He had left the battlefield behind, wanting only peace. His hands were covered in grease as he tightened a bolt on a shattered scout unit. Just then, a noise came from outside, too fast to be wind, too heavy to be rain. Before he could turn, the door exploded open. He was surrounded, and second-stall alien guards in dark armor stormed inside. One hit him in the back with a stun rod. Sparks flew. Kael collapsed. He woke up in chains. His head throbbed. Bright lights above blinded him. As his vision cleared, he saw stone walls, glowing blue symbols, and a large chamber full of silent figures. He was in a throne room, and in the center, raised high above the others, was the cryopod. Inside, a tan alien woman who looked nothing like the monsters he fought before. Her silver skin shimmered like moonlight. Her hair floated like strands of light. But her face, it looked tired. She was dying. "Where am I?" Kael groaned. Pulling at his restraints, a deep voice answered, "You stand before her radiance, Queen Selyara of the Elethine Empire." Kael blinked. "You kidnapped me for a hospital visit?" The room murmured. An advisor stepped forward. "You're not here by accident, human. You are here because your bloodline matches the ancient bond. You are the last chance our queen has." Kael shook his head. "You want me to save her? Why should I? You people hunted us. I've seen what your soldiers did to my kind." Right. The advisor's voice remained calm. "If she dies, our empire collapses. Millions will fall into chaos. Civil war will follow." "Not my problem," Kael snapped. Then a soft voice echoed in the chamber. Weak, but clear. "Please, don't let me die." Kael turned. The queen's eyes had opened. They were glowing faintly, full of pain. But also something else. Something human. A plea. The guard stepped back. The advisors bowed. Even the air in the room changed. She had spoken. "I didn't choose this fate," she said. "I didn't ask for war, but now I ask for help." Kael stared at her, stunned. This was no proud ruler barking orders. This was a woman on the edge of death, asking a stranger for life. He looked around the room. Everyone was watching, waiting. "What happens if I say no?" he asked. "Then we return you to your moon," said the advisor, "and we begin the countdown to her death." Kael stayed quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Let me talk to her." Alone. Gasps filled the room. Number one spoke to the queen alone. But she lifted a trembling hand and nodded. The chamber was cleared. Kael stepped toward the pod. A faint mist still covered the glass. He placed his hand on it. Her hand from the inside met his. "Why me?" he asked. Her lips trembled. "Because you're not like them. I saw it in your record. You once risked your life for enemy children. I need someone like that. Not just to heal me, but to save what's left of my people." Kael stood silent. His mind raced. This wasn't what he expected. Not today. Not ever. And yet, he looked into her eyes again. He saw fear, hope, and something that pulled at him. Maybe it was the soldier in him. Maybe it was something else. He whispered, "I'll stay. But I'm not making any promises." Her eyes closed, a soft breath leaving her lips, and for the first time in days, the glowing symbols on her cryopod lit up again. She was stabilizing, but no one, not even Kaloon, what would come next. Because this was no ordinary cure. This was a bond that could change the galaxy. Kael didn't sleep that night. He sat on the cold stone floor outside the Queen's recovery chamber, staring at the strange blue flames dancing along the wall carvings. Every few minutes, a soft pulse of energy came from the cryopod behind the door. It was like a heartbeat, a slow, ancient rhythm. It made his own heart beat a little faster. He still didn't understand what he had agreed to. No one had explained the details. It only said one thing: stay near her. The bond must begin soon, or it won't begin at all. What kind of bond? He didn't ask.
Us.
He wasn't ready for answers. By morning, the Queen's condition had improved slightly. She was still weak, her voice barely above a whisper, but her color had returned. Her body, once fading, now gave off a gentle silver glow. But the healers looked worried. She wasn't healing fast enough. A tall priest entered the room and studied. Kael in silence. His skin was like glass, translucent, almost colorless. His eyes had no pupils, just white fog inside. He walked straight toward Kael and handed him a scroll. "This," the priest said, "is the truth." Kael unrolled the scroll, but it wasn't written in any human language. The priest pressed a thin metal disc against Kael's temple. Suddenly, the words shifted letters, reshaping into English. Kael read in silence. The curse was not natural. It was punishment. A deal made generations ago, with something ancient and cosmic. A deal that demanded the royal bloodline never remain unbalanced always, joined with another life form. And humans, by chance or fate, carried a dormant thread in their DNA. A match, spark. Only by merging with a human through intimate bonding mind, body, essence, could the Queen survive. Kael dropped the scroll. "You mean I have two?" He couldn't finish the sentence. The priest's tone didn't change. "It is more than physical. It is soul deep. Your being will touch hers, forever." Kael stepped back. No, that's insane. Yet you stayed." "I stayed to stop her from dying, not to become her." "Mate." The priest studied him, then turned away. "Then you should have left when she first opened her eyes." Later, Kael stood at the Queen's bedside. She looked at him, her silver hair spread over, the pillow like moonlight on water. "I know what they told you," she whispered, "and I won't force you." Kael didn't answer. She turned her face away. "Before the war, I visited Earth once. I was disguised. No one knew who I was. I sat on a train and watched a mother feed her baby while strangers helped an old man. Into a seat, I thought, these creatures are messy, loud, weak, but kind. And I wondered, what if we had never gone to war? What if we'd tried to talk instead?" Kael folded his arms. "Then maybe I wouldn't be here and you'd still be dying," she smiled faintly. "Maybe." A long pause settled between them, and she added, "They didn't kidnap just any human. They chose you for a reason." Kael snorted. "'Cause I'm compatible?" "No," she whispered, "'cause you have nothing left to lose." That cut deeper than he expected. Kael stepped away from the bed, frustrated, confused, unsure whether to stay or run. But before he could leave the room, a sharp alarm echoed across the palace. Guards ran past the doorway. He heard shouts, orders being screamed, footsteps everywhere. The healer burst into the chamber. "Stay with her. Do not leave her side." Kael grabbed the healer's arm. "What's going on?" "An assassin has breached the gates. They mean to end her before the bond begins." Kael reached for the small plasma cutter strapped to his boot. It wasn't a weapon, not truly, but it would have to do. Then the lights flickered. The Queen gasped. A shadow moved inside the chamber, fast, smooth, almost invisible. Kael pushed her bed to the wall, covering her with his body. A blade slashed through the air, missing his face by inches. He swung the cutter blindly, and it hissed with heat as it struck something flesh, metal, bone. The figure screamed and vanished. Guards rushed in a second later, dragging the assassin's body from the shadows. Kael stood over it, breathing hard, his arms burned, but still shielding the queen. She looked up at him, eyes wide. Why would you protect me? Kael didn't answer right away. His heart was racing. The moment hung heavy in the air. Then he finally spoke. Because I couldn't walk away and still call myself human. She reached out, touching his arm softly. Then maybe there is still hope. And for the first time, Kael felt it too, Flicker something strange. Something beginning. Asterisk. Kael sat alone in the chamber long after the guards had dragged the assassin's body away. His hands still trembled. The queen was asleep now, her chest rising slowly, her skin glowing faintly silver in the dim light. But Kael's thoughts were a storm. He had been kidnapped, thrown into an alien court, asked to bond with a dying queen, and nearly killed by a blade that hummed like lightning. And now, somehow, part of him didn't want to leave. Why? He couldn't answer. Maybe it was her voice. Maybe it was how she looked at him not as a tool, but as someone real. Maybe it was because, for the first time in years, someone needed him not to fight, not to kill, but simply to stay. Asterisk. Still, the word bond echoed in his mind like a threat. The next morning, the queen was already awake when he opened his eyes. She sat upright, pale but stronger, wrapped in silk robes that shimmered like flowing starlight. Hair was braided with small blue stones. She looked less like a dying monarch, more like something sacred. Kael stood. You should be resting. I've rested too long, she replied softly. And time isn't on our side. He looked at her, then at the guards standing by the walls. Still want me to be your miracle cure? I want you to understand, she said. Come with me. Kael followed her through the stone corridors. They walked in silence. The palace felt different, now less like a prison, more like a memory. Warm lights glowed from the walls, strange symbols pulsed gently underfoot, and the air carried a sweet scent like rain on warm stone. Finally, they reached a hall filled with crystal mirrors. The queen stepped in front of one and placed her hand on the surface. The mirror rippled, and the glass became clear. Not a reflection, but a vision. Kael stared. He saw the queen years ago laughing in a garden. She looked young, full of life. She was dancing with children, her skin shining in the sunlight. Then the scene changed. Warships, flames, the palace under siege. Her people dragged from their homes, her father executed, her mother dead in her arms. I was 21, she said. The youngest queen in our history. I was trained to rule, not to survive. Kael swallowed hard. Another image appeared. The queen, sitting in a dark room, holding a scroll, the same scroll Kael had read. Her face was still, but her hands shook. I knew the curse would come for me, she continued. Every ruler before me died the same way. Some tried other cures, all failed, except one. Kael turned toward her, the human. She nodded. 1,000 years ago, one queen lived. She bonded with a human who crashed on our moon. The curse broke. Her people flourished, but the empire erased the records. They called it weakness, a disgrace. Kael let out a breath, and now they want you to repeat it. I want to live, she said, not as a ruler, not as a symbol, just as myself. Kael looked back at the mirror. The final image was of her alone, sitting at the edge of a lake, watching stars fall into the water. He spoke quietly. Why show me this? Because before I ask you to bond with me, I want you to see who I really am. He nodded slowly, unsure what to say. Then, for the first time, he touched the mirror. It rippled again this time, showed him Kael, in battle, bloodied, carrying a wounded enemy child through a firestorm. Then later, alone in a refugee camp, giving away his last ration to an alien girl. Finally, the vision showed him now standing beside the queen. He jerked his hand back. How does it know? The mirror doesn't lie, she said gently. It shows your soul. Kael stared at her. You think I'm some hero? I think you're still human, she said. And that's more than most kings ever were. They walked back in silence. That evening a ritual was prepared. Not the bond, but something before it. A test, a sharing. Kael stood shirtless in the middle of a circle of light, with a mark drawn across his chest in glowing ink. The queen stepped forward. She wore a simple white gown, her hair unbound. A priest chanted words Kael didn't understand. Then he stopped. The queen raised her hand and pressed 2 fingers. Gently to Kael's heart, it was like lightning and warmth at the same time. His body froze. His breath vanished, then dash images. Her childhood, her dreams, her pain. He saw them. Felt them, and then she saw his. His war, his fear, his loneliness. Her hand dropped. Kael gasped. Falling to his knees, she knelt beside him and whispered, Now, we are no longer strangers. That night, Kael sat outside her room, unable to sleep. He touched the center of his chest, where the ink still glowed faintly, and for the first time, he wondered if this bond wasn't a trap. What if it was the beginning of something neither of them expected? The next 2 days passed in strange silence. No more attacks, no more orders, just Kael and the queen, trapped in a world that felt suspended between life and something else. Every morning, Kael woke to find the palace a little more active, servants moving quicker, priests muttering more urgently, guards watching the sky like something was coming, and still, no one dared explain what the final bond truly meant. Kael spent those days walking beside the queen, asking questions, learning fragments of her world. The 2 of them sat in gardens where gravity bent softly with glowing trees that responded to touch. He learned that her empire had once spanned over 30 moons, but now only 5 remained loyal. He learned her people were not born, but sung into life by a ritual so ancient, even the high priests didn't fully understand it. And the queen, she asked questions too. Do you miss Earth? She'd ask, eyes watching his expression closely. Sometimes. Kael would say, but the stars are quieter. Did you love someone? I used to. She didn't survive the last war. Ow. The queen never replied when he said that. She just sat quietly, a flicker of something unreadable in her gaze. That evening, Kael entered the temple chamber once more, but this time the door sealed shut behind him. He turned fast. What is this? 3 priests entered, the same ones who had spoken no words since his arrival. This time they bowed. The queen has accepted your soul, the first one said. But now, your body must accept hers. Kael tensed. I didn't agree to anything yet. The priest nodded. Then leave. Kael stepped forward, then stopped, because behind them stood the queen. She wore something he had never seen before, ceremonial robe that wrapped around her like flowing crystal, revealing little but glowing with warmth. Her eyes were lined with silver, her lips shimmered softly, her long hair drifted behind her like starlight in water. She walked up to him slowly, carefully, her hands trembling, not with fear but hesitation. I didn't summon you here to demand, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I came to ask. Kael stared at her. Ask what? That you trust me, she said. He looked at the priests. What happens if I don't? They leave, she answered. You walk out the same way you came in ancient. Kael hesitated. The air was thick, now charged. The lights in the chamber dimmed. The queen stepped closer. I'm not asking you to be my maid out of duty, she said. I'm asking you because I want to live, not for a throne, not for power, but because for the first time in my life, I want to stay. Kael's throat tightened. You said I have nothing to lose, he muttered. But what if I do now? The queen gently touched his hand. Then let me protect it, she pressed. Her palm against his chest, over his heart. The moment she did, a wave of warmth shot through his body. Not painful, not confusing, just deep, like the air in his lungs had been replaced with light. Then her hand pulsed with silver energy and suddenly, Kael's own veins lit up. His skin glowed softly. He stumbled backward, falling to one knee. His mind split, memories rushing in from a voice not his own. He saw her memories again, but deeper. This time, he saw the moment her mother died. He saw her first kill in battle. He saw her crying alone in the chamber of silence where no one could enter, not even guards. He saw her burying her hopes, one by one, and then he saw himself, not from his eyes, but from hers. The way she looked at him, the way she watched him while pretending not to, the way she smiled when he wasn't looking. Kael fell forward, gasping, his hands pressed against the floor. "You saw it," she said softly, kneeling beside him. "Didn't you?" Kael nodded. "I saw everything." The queen leaned closer. "Then you know what comes next," Kael whispered. "I'm not afraid of dying?" She looked at him, calm. "But are you afraid of living?" The lights around the chamber flared. A soft hum began to rise, ancient, low, vibrating through the stone beneath their feet. The bonding ritual had begun. There was no turning back now. Kael stood, his body still glowing, and faced her. "Then let's finish what we started." She smiled, and for the first time. It wasn't the smile of a queen. It was just a woman who had found something in the dark. She reached for him. He reached back. Their hands touched. The chamber exploded in light, and far above the palace. For the first time in 500 years, the sky split open and sang. Asterisk, the light that burst from the ritual chamber lit the entire palace like dawn. Guards dropped to their knees. Birds scattered from their nests across the crystal towers. The 5 moons of the empire shimmered in the sky, each pulsing in rhythm with the glowing bond that had just been sealed below. Kael stood inside the chamber, chest heaving, soaked in sweat, body humming with unfamiliar energy. The queen, still, holding his hand, was barely standing. Her skin, once pale, now glowed silver gold, brighter than ever before. Her breathing had steadied. Her heartbeat matched his, and yet something was wrong. The 3 priests backed away, faces pale. One of them whispered, "It's not stopping." Kael's glow intensified. Lines of light raced up his arms, across his throat, through his eyes. He gritted his teeth, clutching his ribs. "She's taking too much," one priest shouted. "No," said the other. "He's giving too much." The queen opened her eyes, horror dawning across her face. "Kael, stop. You're feeding me your life force. You have to pull away." But Kael couldn't move. His feet were rooted to the floor. His veins felt like they were made of fire, and every breath felt like he was drinking lightning. His vision blurred, but not with pain, with memory. Flashes of his past, her past. All at once, him on the battlefield watching friends die, her on the throne watching trust fade, him alone. In the ruins of earth, her alone in the ruins of a crown. Their loneliness, was the same. And maybe that's why he didn't stop. Maybe that's why, as the chamber cracked and shook, gave everything. Because she wasn't just some dying queen. She was the first person who had truly seen him. Kael fell to one knee. His glow dimmed, his strength fading. "If I die," he gasped, "don't forget me." The queen screamed his name, then dashed silence. Everything went dark. Kael's body hit the floor. When he opened his eyes again, it was floating. Not in water, not in air, in memory. He was inside her mind. He stood in a quiet hall of crystal columns, surrounded by soft music and flickers of her dreams. Around him drifted echoes of her life, her laughter as a child, the warmth of her mother's touch, the shame of her first failure, the cold of isolation after her coronation. Then from behind one column she appeared, barefoot, simple white robe, hair loose, face soft, and not as a queen, just as her. She walked to him and placed a hand on his face. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't," he whispered. "I gave it freely." Her voice trembled. "But why?" Looked into her eyes. "Because I wanted to give you something no one else ever could." Choice. She leaned her forehead against his. "Then stay with me." "I'm still trying," he said. Suddenly a crack formed in the dream space. Then another. The vision trembled. From outside voices called to him. Healers, guards, real. Life. He was being pulled back. "You're waking up," she said softly. "Will you be there?" She smiled. "Always." Kael's eyes snapped open. He was lying on a bed, wrapped in glowing sheets. Machines blinked around him, scanning his vitals. His skin was pale, but the glow in his chest had steadied. Across the room she sat, alive, strong and watching him. "You came back," she said. "Barely," he groaned. She rose and came to him. "They say the bond was unstable. It nearly killed you, but it worked." She nodded, her eyes gleaming. "The curse is gone. My blood runs clean." He chuckled. "You're welcome." She leaned down and kissed his forehead. "You didn't just save me. You changed me." The door opened, an advisor ran in. "Your Majesty, not now," she snapped, "but your enemies know the bond succeeded, and they're coming. Warships from the Council of Blood are all ready." "In orbit?" Kael groaned. "Can I get 1 hour before the next disaster?" She took his hand. "You're not alone this time." Kael slowly sat up, ignoring the pain. "What happens now?" She turned to him, serious. "Now, we fight. Together." Kael looked into her eyes, and for the first time since the war, he felt like a soldier again. But this time, he had something worth protecting. Someone, and whatever was coming, it would face it as one. Asterisk, the sky above the capital city had turned. Red dot alien warships. Jagged, dark, and covered in crimson tribal markings, hovered in low orbit like vultures circling a wounded beast. Their cannons hummed, targeting towers. The Council of Blood had arrived. They had no intention of letting Queen Selyara live now that the bond had been completed. Inside the palace, Queen stood before the ancient war table, her hands pressed against the surface, which displayed a glowing projection of the city, its defenses, and the approaching enemy. Her advisors argued, shouting suggestions: "Evacuate, surrender."
Ow.
Delay, but her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "We do not run. We do not hide." She turned to the one person standing silent at the edge of the room, to Kael. His skin was still pale. The lines of silver from the bonding ritual remained faintly etched into his chest and arms like scars from another world. His eyes burned with clarity. He had changed, not just physically, something inside. Him had awakened. "I need you at my side," the Queen said. Kael stepped forward. "Then give me something to fight with." She nodded to a priest, who opened a sealed vault at the end of the chamber. Inside lay something strange, half weapon, half armor. It looked alive, organic metal, pulsing with soft blue light. It had been created long ago for the ancient bonded ones, those who carried royal blood inside them, even if they weren't born with it. Kael hesitated. "This was made for your kind." "You are my kind now," she said softly. He stepped into the suit. It wrapped around him like liquid steel, adapting to his form. When it settled, a strange hum echoed in the chamber. The suit pulsed in time with the Queen's heartbeat. They were linked even now. When she breathed, he felt it in his bones. When she looked at him, something moved beneath his skin like an invisible thread pulling him closer. "Status report," Kael said. Testing the helmet's voice interface. "Shields active. Weapon pulse ready. Heartline secure." A voice replied in his ear. He turned to the Queen. "Let's show them what a human really is." The first explosion hit the outer wall of the city. Glass shattered. Towers trembled. The Queen's forces scattered, rallying to defensive points. The enemy wasn't just using soldiers, they were using corrupted creatures, twisted by blood magic. Giant beasts with bone armor and fire in their throats stormed the gates. The skies rained plasma. Kael stood at the edge of the balcony with the Queen beside him. She whispered, "Ready? Always." They leaped together. The moment they hit the ground, the bond lit up. Kael moved like a storm-fast, brutal, unstoppable. The suit reacted to his thoughts before he could speak. With every step, blue energy roared from his fists, ripping into enemy lines. He didn't just fight, he became a weapon. Beside him the queen floated, her eyes glowing like twin suns. Her hands weaved through the air, summoning ancient energy in sharp fluid movements. Waves of silver light burst from her palms, turning bone beasts to ash. She wasn't just a monarch, she was fury, incarnate. But then something shifted. A warship descended lower, crashing through the atmosphere like a falling god. It opened its mouth. Yes, it had a mouth and from it came the true threat. AWRAITH Lord, 10 feet tall, black as oil, a creature made of smoke and armor, born to kill royalty. It looked at the queen and screamed. Kael charged without thinking. His blade met the Wraithlord's claws mid-dash air. The force sent him flying. He hit the ground hard, sliding across stone, the suit sparking. The Wraithlord moved toward the queen. She raised her arms, but the creature absorbed her magic. Kael. She screamed. He stood again, bleeding inside the suit. His legs shook, his vision blurred. Then the bond pulsed. He saw her fear, her determination, her trust. He screamed, and the silver marks on his chest ignited. The armor reformed tighter, brighter. His eyes burned blue. He ran. The Wraithlord raised its claws. Kael jumped. Time slowed. He drew all the energy from the bond. He felt her guiding. Him, not as a queen, not as a warrior, as his partner. He roared and drove the blade straight through the Wraithlord's chest. The creature howled, then exploded into smoke. Silence fell. The battlefield froze. The enemy, seeing their god killed by a human, began to retreat. Some screamed. Others fled. The queen landed beside Kael, her hand gripping his shoulder. "You were supposed to survive," she whispered, looking at his wounds. Kael smiled, coughing. "Didn't I?" And then he collapsed, but not from defeat. From victory. Above them, the enemy ships began to pull back into orbit. The war wasn't over. But today was theirs. Asterisk, the city did not sleep for 3 days. The fires had been put out. The skies cleared. Rubble was being cleared from the palace steps. And soldiers carried the injured carefully through what was once a battlefield and now felt like hallowed ground. But no one smiled. Not yet. They were waiting for one thing. Kael. He had been unconscious since the final blow. The royal healers worked non-stop. Machines hummed around him, foreign systems designed not for humans, but for species that healed with energy and thought, not blood and bone. Even the queen had not left his side, not once. She had sat by his bed, her silver gown crumpled, her crown removed, her hands trembling every time as she reached for his. They said the bond had saved him. They also said it nearly broke him. Her advisors begged her to return to the throne room. The empire needed a ruler now. The Council of Blood had fractured. Several factions had already offered surrender. Others had requested negotiations. "You must answer them, Your Majesty," her general said. "Your people believe you're invincible now." But the queen only replied, "I am not leaving him." Because in the moment the Wraithlord had fallen, when Kael had collapsed in her arms, something deeper had shifted than just the tides of war. Her kingdom had been spared, but her heart had been claimed. On the 4th morning, just before sunrise, Kael stirred. His breath caught in his throat, and his body shuddered. The queen rushed to him. "Kael, can you hear me?" His eyelids twitched, then opened. His voice was a dry rasp. "Did we win?" She smiled through tears. "You did?" Kael blinked, groggy. "Is this still your palace?" She laughed softly, brushing the hair from his face. "It is." Reached up weakly and tapped his chest, still glowing. She nodded faintly. "But yes," he exhaled slowly. "Good. That means I'm still connected." The queen lowered, her forehead to his. "You never disconnected." When he had recovered enough to walk, the queen summoned a quiet moment for the two of them. No guards, no advisors, just them. In the sacred chamber of the twin moons, a private place meant for soul vows and truths spoken without fear. Kael looked around. "So this is where your kind proposes marriage, or whatever your version of that is." She tilted her head. "Something like that? That's not why I brought you here." He arched a brow. No. I wanted to give you a choice, she said softly. Kael crossed his arms, leaning slightly. What kind of choice? She looked at him, regal again, but vulnerable. You are bonded to me. That's true. You saved my life, and in many ways. The Empire. They will call you a hero, but you're still human. You still belong to your own stars. You didn't ask for any of this. So if you want to go home, I will not stop you. You are free to leave. I can sever the bond's anchor. You'll be safe, alive, independent. Kael was silent for a long time. Then he looked up at the moonlight pouring through the crystal ceiling and said, You know, when I first got dragged into that throne room, I wanted to kill everyone in it. I hated this place. Hated you. Hated myself. She looked away. He stepped closer. But then I saw who you really were. You're not a crown. You're not a curse. You're not even a queen to me anymore. She turned to him slowly. He continued, You're the only person who ever looked at me like I wasn't broken. Like I was worth something more than a gun or a uniform. And after everything we've been through, reached out and took her hand. I don't want to go back to Earth. Earth doesn't have you. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Then she stepped closer and whispered, So you'll stay? He smiled. Not just stay, I'll live with you. They stood together in silence, their foreheads touching, their breaths slow and steady. The bond between them no longer pulsing wildly, but steady, warm, complete. Later that evening, the queen walked out to the palace balcony, dressed not in royal armor, but a gown of her own design, soft silver and simple. Beside her stood Kael, wearing the bonded suit modified to match her crest. The people below erupted in cheers that echoed through every corner of the city. She raised her hand to silence them. My people, she said. The curse is broken, but not by force, not by blood. It was broken by choice. She turned to Kael. From this day forward, I do not rule alone. Kael looked at her, then at the people. He stepped forward and raised his hand in a quiet salute. And in that moment, millions of aliens, warriors, scholars, farmers, and children bowed their heads not to a queen, but to the human who had given everything without asking for a throne, not just because he saved her, but because he chose her, and that in the end was what saved them all.